Can you spell 4 soon to be 5-time champion? Because I can at this point, as implausible as it might be yet and still, lest we forget that there are 5 races only left in the 25 championship. Max Verstappen is now 40 points behind OJP in the drivers' standings. But check this out, chat, before we review all of the chaos that was the US Grand Prix. Just been looking at the odds. And all of a sudden, the bookmakers have Max Verstappen as a very firm second favourite. If you run the current drivers 2025, the simulation of it 100 times, they say that he wins 30% of the time. OJP, with 40 points in hand, wins 36% of the... Honestly, chat, this is getting more chaotic by the second. And then you realise that Max has been beating these bots, has more poles than the McLaren pair season to date. And as near as makes no difference, all season he's been driving an RB19 that is dog doo-doo, an SH1T box, understeery all over the shop, and then snap oversteer. He didn't have the confidence in the car, or hasn't at least. Now he has it. Max Verstappen pointedly this weekend said if he were driving a McLaren, the papaya rules wouldn't even matter. So far down the bloody road would he be. He would be a destroyer of worlds, were he up against Lando or OJP in the same car. Why? Because this dude doesn't make mistakes at the same lick as OJP does now, and Lando Norris. Don't believe me? Well, look at Lando off the line. I understand that Charles Leclerc was brilliant today and he has himself soft compound tyres, but flip reverse Lando for Max. You're telling me that Charles Leclerc pulls that move on Max Verstappen? You'll bet your bottom dollar he does not. And herein lies the difference, a difference one of kinds and not extents. That Max Verstappen is a genius, god tier level driver, a fire breathing dragon of an F1 peddler, and Lando Norris and Oscar at the moment look like puppies. They can't hold a candle to this dude. And I guess as implausible as the 40-point deficit looks, all of a sudden it feels like the jigsaw puzzle pieces are coming together now. It's getting techie. Then you look at what's to come over the next 5 races. The Mexican Grand Prix. Who's going to beat Max around there? Lest we forget 2021, the god tier performance that he put down against a fire-breathing dragon in his prime Sir Lewis Hamilton. And then the Brazilian Grand Prix, where you can expect rain. Lest we forget 2024 and 2016, some of the best F1 performances in the wet that you will ever see in your life. Las Vegas. What, you think OJP is going to beat him around there? Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Behave yourself. I feel bad at this point for OJP and Lando Norris. I feel like they're realising that they're in above their heads. The analogy over the course of the weekend was Jaws and Jurassic Park, that Max Verstappen is a T-Rex or a shark. I think it's more insidious than that. That the pressure cooker as far as the McLaren pairing is now tangible, suffocating, quite literally, because OJP doesn't look like himself, nor has he looked like himself for a few races now. We keep trotting out this stat, but it's important because OJP earlier on in the season looked brilliant. He looked like a seasoned vet of 10 years, not 3 earlier on in the season. Mistakes were thin on the ground. Australia, okay, a cheeky off. He was unlucky there. You can chalk up the British Grand Prix, but you could count the mistakes on one hand. Now all of a sudden it feels like there is another unwanted entrant to this automotive pugilistic Oscar Piastri equation. It has a name and it's called loss of pace. Where has his speed gone? You think you're going to fight Max Verstappen? You don't even have pace. It's other things that you're going to need to beat Max. You're going to need speed, resilience, mental fortitude. You're going to need a car that's quicker than the others. And at the moment, it feels like Oscar and McLaren in that MCL 3.9 have none of the aforementioned. Don't believe me? Well, let me put forth Exhibit A, B, and C. In the last 9 races, Oscar Piastri, 1 pole, 2 race wins. In the first 9 races, he had 4 poles and 5 race wins. That, ladies and gentlemen, is techier than techie things. The trend is your friend until there is a bend of material variety as far as Oscar Piastri's form is concerned. Let me see that and raise you this. The Oscar Piastri in the last 3 races, no podium finishes. What are we doing here, chat? This dude is meant to be coming to the fore. Now, I know I should extend this chap some grace, but because he was so brilliant season to date, so precise as far as his forensic car placement, I can't extend him that. He's been rubbish over the past 3 Grand Prix. Now, I know he's young and I know it's only bloody 3 Grand Prix, but nevertheless, it's not good enough. OJP has been tested for the first time in his career. I think you're right. I think you are right. For the first time, and he's floundering horribly. Cam, he can't be coasting now. He's got to find the pace. Now, I know Cota's not his track. Is it, Sir John? McLaren equals lead and fast effect. They're struggling. They're struggling. And you've got to put forth the supposition that this may or may not have something to do with all of the papaya rules. If you have yourself an OJP, back him then. I just heard Brooksy ask him the question. Listen, at some point, I'm not going to ask you about your performance in qualifying or your loss of pace and form. What I'm going to ask you about is McLaren, the papaya coloured rules. What do they need to do to give you the support? At some point, will McLaren need to get pragmatic with this and give you priority, not just in qualifying at the altar of repercussions. Lando Norris' words, not mine. But deference, no preference and priority as far as the Drivers' Championship's concerned, lest they want for Maximilian Verstappen to steal their lunch money. Because bet your bottom dollar, give that dude an opportunity, crack open the door so much as millimetres, and he will kick it down. Max, at the time of writing, has his foot on the rhetorical windpipe of the McLaren boys under the aegis of both Lando and Oscar Piastri. The points. Here's the points. I'm going to read them out to you because this is important, right? Because we're talking about the championship and whether Max can win his 4, soon to be 5-time champion. 346 points as at the time of writing is how much Oscar has. 22 points. In fact, that's the wrong bloody stat. Look at me messing up all over the shop. Listen, it's close. 40 points down the road is Max Verstappen, and that's all you need to know. 346 points is how much Oscar has. Lando Norris, 332. Therefore 14 points is the delta between 1 and 2, but the one that everybody cares about is, of course, Max in third to Oscar Piastri. 40 points only with 5 races to go. What's more concerning for McLaren is that their form has been lost. Oscar Piastri now almost in perpetuity seizing defeat from the jaws of victory, making a habit out of it. Mark Webber can say that he wants, that Oscar Piastri is not, he hasn't forgotten how to drive a car. He hasn't become a bad driver overnight. Whilst that might be true, all that's important, ladies and gentlemen, of the F1 jury is this. Over the past 9 races, 1 pole, 2 race wins. Over the first 9, 4 poles and 5 race wins. The contrast, therefore, is stark. The trend, the shift in form is very loud. And you're telling me that Oscar Piastri, if you're going to save a dying puppy for your life, can defend a 40-point gap between now and the next 5 races to a Max Verstappen in an RB21 that's now blending and melded around him. Behave yourself. Oh, and by the way, we've got to give some props to Charles Leclerc, who wasn't a bad peddler today. That Scuderia Ferrari SF25 is yet and still a dog, mercurial as far as its handling dynamic. They still cannot run it as low as needs be to optimise for its performance. That notwithstanding, Charles Leclerc dragged that car kicking and screaming damn near to second place. They put him on the softs in the first instance with a view to play a Queen's Gambit, and it nearly worked. Very nearly worked. He had to back out from an overtaking manoeuvre on Maximilian Verstappen at the very last minute. Put some respect on Charles Leclerc's name today. You saw him defend to Lando Norris, and the context here is key. No one's going to tell me that MCL 39 isn't still the god-tieriest, the quickest car in an average driver's hands of the 10 on the grid. Of course it was rapid. You saw Lando Norris in the clean air towards the dying embers, hanging no less with the one that they call Maximilian Verstappen, for some say soon to be 5-time. Charles Leclerc held off Lando for the vast majority of the race on dying tyres. Props to Charles Leclerc. He does it not because of Ferrari and their competence, but despite their competence and lack thereof. It is chaos over there. John Elkann issuing statements. Lewis Hamilton claiming that he's improved the car. Charles Leclerc's team looking to pastures anew potentially, keen to no longer waste his prime years at the Auto Scuderia Ferrari, the red car with the yellow badge and the black prancing horse atop. Despite that, not because of it, Charles Leclerc puts down a market-leading purple sector driver of the day, some say. Well, not if Maximilian Verstappen has anything to do with it. Dominant from start to finish. Let me talk to you about Lando Norris very quickly. What's going on here? Start bottle job. I mean, you have yourself, Lando, the opportunity to win your maiden voyage, a driver's championship, just as you did in 2024. The car is yet and still the quickest around the track in the heat like Cota, and you're struggling to barely get second. We saw you overly transparent, lacking for devilment in the way that you overtook Charles Leclerc. Now, this isn't me saying Lando Norris, aka Dustin from Stranger Things, was bad. He was not. But if you're going to operate at that level, the level requisite to win a championship of the drivers' variety, when you have a Maximilian Verstappen, for some say seem to be a 5-time champion to beat, then it's got to be better than that. Not so much the start, because Charles Leclerc was always going to steal his lunch money on them red labelled, fresh or scrubbed soft compound tyres. But yet and still flipping Nora, Lando. You leave me frustrated, chap. And the problem for Lando is this. No one would care about Lando and his unfulfilled potential, but for the comments, the bloody British Vogue saying to Lewis Hamilton that it's easy to win a race and championships if you have the best car, saying that next year will be my year in the 2024 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Zach Brown putting Lando Norris's name in the same sentence as Senna and Schumacher. You must be having a laugh. How very dare you, Zach Brown. Lando Norris is nothing if not a chaos dragon in perpetuity now, seizing defeat from the jaws of victory. Of course, he's bridged the gap ever so slightly. 14 points now. Down to first place, Oscar Piastri, whereas to start this race weekend, it was 22. It was progress. But again, we have this conversation under the broad umbrella heading of a difference in extents and not kinds. Rest assured, Lando should be winning that race, because swap out Max and put him in that MCL 3.9 and he would be gone a gazillion miles down the road. That's not good enough. I think Lando thinks he's better than he really is. Brilliant driver nevertheless, but his ego is writing checks now that his AWS simply cannot cash. He's going to get techier than techie things over the next couple of weeks. Next week, T-7 days, Mexican Grand Prix. Can you spell Maximilian Verstappen, 4, soon to be 5-time champion? Oh, the humanity.